Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Calvin, We the Species. And I've been talking to Erin Rado. We've been talking now for a couple of weeks, and I can't express how excited I am to do this for a whole plethora of reasons. Some are the fact that we've got this great commonality. We're independent authors, self-published independent authors, and we are the recipient, both Erin and myself, of very good Kirkus reviews. So I'm kind of holding this up to the camera. This is Erin's a great Kirkus review for Realms of the Ravensdaughter, which I'm holding up, which is her latest anthology. I guess we call that. I love what Kirkus radiant, laudable characters and a gripping storyline fuel this magical collection of novellas in that. So that's the commonality that fuses and energizes me to do this interview and to spend time. And we're going to go from her fantasy writing into Mandalith work, Celtic Mandalith, which is a whole new world for me. It's called Mindfulness. Erin is going to talk about that. So this is poignant and real and a necessity for people to listen to your journey and what you're accomplishing. And finally, we have to collectively give a shout out to Mark Abbott, who's a author promotion person out there in Las Vegas, who brought us together, and it's through Mark's engineering got us together, and the rest, as they say, is history. So this is my monologue. This is a very special interview. You're a special person, and I'm thrilled to do this, Erin. So take it away. How about a little bio, a little background, a little intro, and then we'll jump into a lot of stuff.
Calvin, it's absolutely a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it. Well, yeah, Mark saw my review in Kirkus. Being an independent author, you never know what you're going to get when you put your work out there in general. I mean, my gosh, sending your work out for scrutiny is the hardest thing we authors do because you're bearing your heart and soul to the world. But my personal editor, I want to give a shout out to Mr. Patrick LoBrutto, who's the former senior editor of Doubleday, Bantam Books, and Ace. And he's always had such confidence in me. And my writing is good. And so I thought, okay, let's prove it. Let's submit it to Kirkus. Kirkus loved it, and Mark found it and introduced us, and here we are. So I love telling stories. This is my thing. And if I may offer a teeny little correction, my
Yes.
book is actually, and I'm sorry, everybody, this is backwards here.
Oh,
It's Tales of the
oh,
Ravensdaughter.
this is the gaming guide. I'm
This
sorry.
is the gaming
I'm
guide,
sorry.
absolutely. And we'll get to that. So when I was writing Tales of the Ravensdaughter, these are novellas. Even though I've got the full, this is the bound collection, they're actually really short. They're little tiny stories. And what I decided to do was take the experience you get from watching a streaming television show and make that into a literary experience. We are busy people. We have places to go. We have things to do. And sometimes you have time for a nice, big, thick book, and sometimes you just don't, but you still miss that experience of reading. And I find as an author, working on your short fiction is such a good discipline. And it really, really hones your skills to try and tell a very thorough, fun story in 20,000 words. It's a little tricky,
Yeah.
but I made up my mind to do that. And I was emulating sort of the style of The Witcher, or actually on Disney Plus, the Marvel series Moon Knight was running right about that time. And so I chose that 6-episode format that you get from Moon Knight. And I thought, okay, I'm going to tell the full arc of a novel and break it up into 6 little adventures. Each one builds on one another, and then they finish like the end of a television season. So I started selling at the Renaissance festivals. I'm based in Los Angeles. And to date, I have sold about $40,000 worth of books,
Wow.
usually at about a $6 price point, because people will often say, oh, hey, these look like fun. Let me just get the whole set. So just to take you into a fantasy world, Tales of the Ravensdaughter, my girl dies on page 13. But don't worry, she gets better.
Great, great, great description. I read that. I wanted to talk about that because that is, to me, it's so impressive because it captures you.
And then people will go, wait a minute, she dies, she gets better. Right then I know I've hooked them. Writers, work on your elevator pitches. You never know when you're going to pounce on an editor from Simon and Schuster or HarperCollins. Always have that elevator pitch ready. My girl discovers that she is a realm walker. She can walk between the world below and the world above. She did not know that until she died, which is why I killed her so quickly. Now, in fantasy, it's very, very difficult to do something new. Everybody does the same old thing. We've been to every forest and tomb and castle. And so pulling from my Greek mythology love, I just decided, well, let's do the world below. You also have that in Welsh mythology, the land of Anwen. And then it can be a landscape, whatever I want. And then pulling just a teeny bit from Shakespeare, the world below is ruled by the King of Shadows and the Raven Queen. That's Oberon and Titania. And then I just had to throw in the best gender fluid character ever, who's based on Puck. And my character is named Odwin. Odwin will switch genders in the middle of sentences just to mess with you visually, because Odwin brings that wonderful wisdom and yet snarkiness and becomes my girl's guide and mentor. The guy in the story is a former brigade captain who, but for one stupid mistake, has ruined the rest of his life. But the story is my girl's journey of discovery. She was very much wronged in the beginning. She was assaulted, and she died because of that. And yet, because she has the second chance of redemption, rather than giving up and surrendering to the trauma of that moment, she draws empowerment from that, and she grows from that to the point where now she's able to protect other people who are also victims of trauma. And the theme is sometimes bad stuff happens to good people. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to roll over? Are you going to take your power back? Are you going to roll with it and make your peace with it, even though you'll never forget it? You don't even have to forgive it, but just don't let trauma own you. This has been something I've drawn from my mindfulness art and my mindfulness work, which I've been doing for well over 15 years. One of the root causes of anxiety is that you've given up your power to something. And a lot of people will say, no, my power was taken from me. And I will always remind them, no, you gave it up. You just don't know how to take it back.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been what I encourage people. I'm not a therapist. I'm a storyteller. That said, I've been able to work with people in full panic attacks and help them ground and center. And I brought that into my work. I love psychology in a story. And that's probably why my editor, Pat, calls my work Hitchcock on Phil Dick's drugs.
I think that's
And,
great.
and if you don't know who Philip K. Dick is, he wrote The Man in the High Castle and the short stories that became Blade Runner, Total Recall, and Minority Report.
Wow.
Phil did a lot of dark psychology, which I
Wow.
love, twisting things up. And it's fresh, it's new, it's action. A lot of writers are writing fantasy romance, or they're writing epic fantasy. That's all well and good. But I just wanted to take, again, that streaming experience where you're investing about an hour of your time in a good little story. You may binge and read all 6, you may just read 1 or 2, but you still come away with something really good and really satisfying that hopefully toward the end makes you go, oh, you did not just do that. You did not just don't do this to me. I had one reader say she got so mad at I write jerk characters very, very well. There's one particular character in the series who is an absolute a-hole. One reader told me she got so mad at him, she threw her book against the wall.
That's
I
great.
consider that a compliment.
That is a compliment, huge compliment.
It really, really is. I just love telling stories, and when you can tell the right story to the right person, you've made a connection. And that's something that's so desperately missing these days, is our ability to connect. And
Correct.
that's what I do with my writing.
Correct. So I have a burning question to ask as I'm listening
Ask
to
me.
you and as I've been listening to you. When did fantasy stories and writing come to you? Is this
I think
something
I,
modern or something in your past?
oh, it's part of my soul. I think I was 8 and I was trying to get out of an assignment for Sunday school. And so I put on a costume from a play and I pretended I was a child from another country. And because I wasn't really me, I didn't have time to do the assignment. And and there was my first little foray into acting. And let's face it, writing is acting. You just are not in front of people up on stage. You're still, living your characters. And I did that when I was 8 years old. I was 12 when Star Wars came out. Of course, that changed my world forever. I discovered medieval heraldry. I discovered the Renaissance Festival when I was 14 years old on a school field trip. No, I'm the only geek in my family, and I've never looked back. Talk about the gaming guide. I was playing Dungeons and Dragons in 1980. Bought my first set of dice, felt geek dirty. Never looked back from that. I've just embraced it. Um, Fantasy is a romantic look at the past versus science fiction, which is a slightly sardonic look at the future. In general, I found. But one of the things, being someone who gets a little mean with my characters, in fantasy, you can really rip a character up, heal them, and kick them back in the game. Physically, they're fine. Psychologically, not so much. And again, my editor, Pat, told me my work was some of the most character-driven fantasy work he's ever read. You've got to focus on your characters. They're going to lead your story. Sometimes when you're writing epic fantasy, you've got this huge world and you put your little characters in there like they're little pieces in a diorama. I don't like to do that. I like to focus on the characters. I write about messed up people who happen to be magical, but it's a people-centered story. And my first novel actually is Gray Warrior. And here I've got the pitch is two guys have got to make it work. I don't make it easy because why on earth would I do that? One guy's the sword, one guy's the magic. The sword's a control freak, the magic is a drug addict. And he is, and you really want to smack him when you meet him. But these two men have to be in balance or their world will not work. It starts out with the sword strong and the drug addict very weak, but there's a moment, very briefly, where they're in balance, but then the sword sacrifices himself so the magic can rise. It ends with the book still out of balance, which gives me room to write another one. But it's the journey of these two guys. And also in my Tales of the Ravensdaughter, I've got a very strong yin-yang vibe going on, male versus female energy, not in not fighting with one another, but in constant flux with one another. I don't like to fight males, female, which one's better. No, it's a cyclical thing. Sometimes one is stronger than the other. Sometimes one needs to yield to the other. And that is just the story of life. That's how we keep moving.
Right. You did mention you have this your experiences and your great successes at Renaissance fairs.
Yep.
And that's a hard, I mean, that's just a hard thing to crack. It's a tough audience, isn't it?
No, not at all. No,
No?
not at all.
So you're able
Not
to
at
crack
all.
that. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I started doing Renaissance fairs with my mindfulness art, but that's where the readers are. It used to be we would go to big science fiction conventions, with the big name authors like, Spider Robinson's coming back to a show in Los Angeles called LostCon, things like that. And Worldcon and all these other conventions. But unfortunately, they're cycling down. And where are the readers going? There are still fantasy readers. And where are they? They come out to the Renaissance Fair.
Oh.
There are major market Ren fairs all around the country that'll run for 7 or 8 weekends. There are also tiny little single weekend shows. And so if you're just starting out, do a little single weekend show, bring your books out, hook up with your audience, build your email list, because that's how all of us indie authors are starting to work on our marketing, is by doing our indie list. And since I've given you my links, I'm on Substack for
Right.
Erin Rado authors. So please join my Substack. And I post nice articles and let you know where I am and what I'm doing. My website is Erin Rado author, but the Ren fairs, even the big ones, Southern California, Arizona, Colorado, Texas, there are 2 very large ones in Texas. Often they will have what's called a guest artist program. Reach out and see if they have one. They'll give you 2 or 3 weekends, and you bring your things out and you start to connect with fans. And also the gamers, the live action role players, the D&D, the D&D players. They will read fantasy. Go to where your readers are, and you'll meet them at a place where they can dress up and enjoy themselves. If there's cosplayers, there's going to be fantasy readers. It's just the way it works.
Wow.
Mhm.
I admire that energy of your energy of doing that. I mean, that's a tough
It's
undertaking.
arduous. I'm not going to kid you. It is arduous.
Oh,
I
it
spent
sure
4
is.
years on the road. For 4 years, I was on the road from
Wow.
show to show to show, building up my mindfulness art. That was tough,
It's
but
tough.
you learn
It's
a
tough.
lot. You sure learn discipline when you have to maintain a schedule like
Wow.
that.
It's funny, I'm recently published, my novel is A Tortoise in My Hair. I became friends with some other indie authors, and one of them suggested, now I'd spent 25 years in sales. I worked for the biggest eyewear company in the world. I was a regional manager and took 50 courses, so I'm a salesman. And I was pretty good at it. And so this author suggested my going to apply to a library to do,
Hmm.
a big library here in Central Jersey. And you know
Celtic.
what? And you used that word arduous. I thought it would be arduous to do that. So I didn't jump at the opportunity. I let it like slide on by. So I have so much more a tremendous respect for you and your journey and your energy and your passion and your belief.
Thank
By the
you.
way,
It's
I heard,
work, but it's so fulfilling. For example, again, I've written a wonderful gender fluid character. And one of the reasons by the way, I am not gender fluid. I'm about as straight and white and cis as you can possibly get. But one of the things I don't like about modern media is shoving an LGBTQ character into your story just to get brownie points. It's being done too much, and I don't like it. The character has to be an awesome character. The fact that they happen to be LGBTQ is just who the character is. But it was really rewarding when I was pitching this character and to a mother and her 16-year-old daughter. And the daughter was trans. And she looks at her mom and says, "Mom, I really feel like someone's hearing me." And when a moment like that comes up, you're like,
well,
well, thank you, universe.
yeah,
You gave me this skill for
yeah,
a reason.
yeah.
And I had another trio of people who were very trans, and they asked me point blank, "Are you LGBTQ?" I said, "Nope." And they said, "Thank you for representing us. We really, really appreciate it." And you get those messages when you're working one-on-one with your readers. And when you lay it out all on the line, hey, this is what I've got. I hope you enjoy my books.
It's funny you mentioned young readers and stuff. You in my reading and researching you love to mentor young people.
I do love to mentor young people. If I'm not in the middle of selling at my booth, because let's face it, I gotta got to pay the rent. But when the crowd will lighten up, which there's always a flow at a Ren fair, I will do my best to take time with an 18-year-old who's scribbling in their notebook, or an indie author who wants to know how to self-publish through Amazon or Ingram or Barnes and Noble, or someone who wants to just pitch me their story. I will always do my best to make time, and then I will give them notes. And sometimes if their story isn't working, I got to tell them that. But I'm not doing them any favors if I sugarcoat it. But it's a critique. I'm never mean.
Right.
They're trusting me with their story. And so I will always suggest ways that, hey, have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? You can see sometimes when the light in their head just turns on,
Great
and they
feeling.
start considering new ways to present a moment or a character or a something.
Yeah.
And
Great
that's
feeling when you can
really
light a
fun to do.
fire, you know,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
is. I mentor college kids and writing and stuff, and when you can see a little glow there, it is a great feeling.
When you can challenge them, that's the thing. I love challenge people. When I was pitching my stories as putting them together again at the Ren Fair, people were hitting me with, well, has your character done this? Well, I haven't thought of that. Challenge. It builds the work up. If you get stuck in a box and you can't accept input, you're not going to do yourself any favors, or you're never going to grow. If you can listen to a comment, even if you don't agree with it, and mull it around and let it germinate, that's when you're really gleaning something from what someone else has said. And that's what I'd like to try and do, is challenge them just a little bit.
Okay. You are multi-talented, so you are a graphic designer, and you build websites, correct?
I do build WordPress sites. Yes, I do. I've also been on Shopify for quite some time, so I've had the opportunity to learn that platform. I like the safety of the e-commerce through Shopify. It's just my preferred platform. But
Okay.
of course, I do pirate art. You say ARRRT, pirate art. I'll take medieval designs and repurpose them. All sorts of things like that. I usually stay in my milieu, which tends to be medieval. I don't know if you know the Bayeux Tapestry. If you'll hang on one second while I do a
Yes,
little
yes.
deep dive. This is a blanket that I had printed, and I took the entire Bayeux Tapestry,
Wow.
that's upside down, and I put it on a blanket. And when COVID hit, I also put the Bayeux Tapestry on face masks.
Oh, cute. Very cute. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So yes, graphic design is quite fun.
Where'd you grow up? You're not from like
Southern Cal, baby. I'm a Southern Cal gal.
okay,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Just
Mhm.
checking. Because most everybody in California came from somewhere else, right? I'm teasing. I'm
I
teasing.
understand. I understand. No, I grew up in the San Gabriel Valley,
Okay.
and I live now in the mountains east of Los Angeles. I was married for 27 years to the most amazing man on the face of the planet. I lost him 14 years ago,
I'm
but
sorry.
back behind me is the Story of Civilization by Will Durant. My husband was an avid reader. He was also an avid war gamer. I mean, these are games that take 3 days to play. And so one of the shows that I'm trying to line up this year is one of the gaming conventions, because that's where you're also going to find your fantasy readers. And that's why I'm putting together an official Dungeons and Dragons guide. And feel free to hold up Realms of the Ravensdaughter if you like.
Now I will. Now I will.
There we go. So I'm working with the son of a fellow vendor who knows the game mechanics of modern Dungeons and Dragons. Now, the reason I'm doing this, I don't know if you know the history of The Witcher, how that franchise got going, but the author was from Eastern Europe. He's from Poland, and he started to write short stories, and they got traction on Reddit. And then he was pitched to come on board for the video game. And once the video game just blew up, well, of course, the franchise went very, very well. I designed Tales of the Ravensdaughter to be a franchisable property. Hello, anybody out there who would like the next big fantasy show. But it's told in 6 episodes. It lends itself to gaming and all the cool stuff. And so I love D&D. I'm a geek. And there's a wonderful company called Penny Dragon Games. Their latest Kickstarter just drew in $300,000. It fully funded in 28 minutes.
Wow.
They are based in Ireland. And the story on their latest Kickstarter, it's an Irish-based Dungeons and Dragons manual, because 2 years ago, or I think it was 2019, Worldcon, which is the World Fantasy Convention, was in Ireland. And so they put together some adventures for the participants, and it became one of their games. So I am running a Kickstarter. It will launch on June 1st for Realms of the Ravensdaughter, where you can get you can get the book, you can get the digital version, you can get some of my wonderful digital art at the different funding tiers. I've set a very low bar. I'm just trying to bring in $3,000 so I can make my rent for a couple months. But we have something, my co-writer Sam Goodman, and I, that's just a lot of fun. And we're starting to build out a whole different world of D&D. And what we're doing is basing it on my novels. So that gives it a foundation that when you're doing D&D on your own, it's called a home brew. And some of the home brews out there are fantastic, and some of them are okay. But when you can base it on intellectual property, like a novel, there's a depth to it that fans are really enjoying so far. We're on Discord as well. All these links you can find on my website and also on my Substack. And so we're in play test right now, and I'm hoping that we can have a successful Kickstarter for the D&D guide, and that will help expand the franchise a little bit and attract some more readers and attract some more players. I'm trying to build something that's really comprehensive and holistic, because that's how I think. I'm a holistic thinker. And a lot of that is from my mindfulness art.
Yes, which we're gonna talk about now. Right before we go into mindfulness,
Sure.
just a deep breath and just an off-topic question to ask you.
Sure. Yeah.
Deep breath and just setting up. Yes, deep breath. You don't have to answer it, but it's cute. So
I'm
here it
happy.
goes,
Hit
Erin.
me.
Excluding family or friends, somebody living or dead you'd like to spend a day with.
Living or dead that I'd like to spend a day with. Okay. I'm just going to go back to Star Wars and say Mark Hamill, because I think he is one of the most interesting guys that I never got a chance to work with his career. He played Mozart, for heaven's sakes, on Broadway.
Wow.
I mean, he does all these amazing voices. And if it isn't Mark Hamill, it would definitely be Carrie Elwes. And of course, Carrie was our hero in The Princess Bride.
Right.
But but he's done so many other things that are just so multifaceted. I have a soft spot on my heart for character actors rather than leading men. Leading men, I just think they tend to be a little bit one-dimensional sometimes. Forgive me, any leading man out there who's more than one-dimensional. Character actors have to be versatile. That is the entire nature of their work. I just find that a little bit more intriguing. And both Mark and Carrie are character actors in leading men's bodies. So's Brad Pitt, by the way. If you've ever seen Snatch, he played that wonderful Irish gypsy whose accent was so thick you couldn't understand him. These are perfect examples of character actors in leading men's bodies. So those are the kind of people I could be fascinated by them all day long.
Great answer. Great answer. Okay. Mindfulness.
Did you want
Uh,
to ask me my favorite movie? You were going to ask me my favorite movie?
yeah, I was. Yeah, we might
Since
as
we're
well.
right there. Okay.
Yeah,
I
go
told
ahead.
you.
What is your favorite movie?
Okay. This answer might be a little surprising. 1981 animation Heavy Metal,
Wow.
believe it or not. Now, mind you, it's very R-rated. But that's not why I like it. The complexity of heavy metal, of course, it's based on the adult comic books, Heavy Metal, but it's considered Elmer Bernstein's lost masterpiece. He was conducting the London Philharmonic, for heaven's sakes, in addition to all the rock and roll music. But the ending sequence is such a wonderful female empowerment sequence. The ending sequence is Tarna, the Tarakian Avenger, who is too late to save the people she needed to save. And so the pact, if you can't protect them, is to avenge, actually. And she sacrifices herself in order to destroy evil. And it, even to this day, that ending sequence is so, I think, immensely powerful, especially with a score that rivals the King of Kings or anything Elmer Bernstein ever wrote. He put his heart and soul into that score for Heavy Metal, and it's just one of the reasons I absolutely love it. I think I snuck into the theater when I was 16. You weren't supposed to sneak into an R-rated theater when you were 16, but hey, it was a late night show. Everybody in the other theater was watching Rocky Horror. I went over and watched Heavy Metal, and that is absolutely one of my deep down favorites. And also the animation, I think what they were going for at the time was great. But yeah, the Tarna sequence is something personal and empowering for me.
Great answer. I would have never. So you were right. But great answer.
Thank you.
Provocative and kind of introspective. And which actually now makes me want to go check it out and kind of search it out and check it out. I like to do those things when I'm given some directions and some recommendations. Because I could watch Casablanca only so many times a year.
Heavy Metal was also done right before the Reagan Revolution. It was 1981. So you could still, and mind you, it was Ivan Reitman directed that.
No
Even
kidding.
though it was animation, it was still Ivan
Wow.
Reitman. Oh,
He
yeah.
no kidding.
Yeah, and John Candy did a voice, and Eugene Levy did voices for that. And I'm trying to think who else was in the score.
Wow.
He had all the great heavy metal music. It was just fantastic. But the animation, of course, was hand drawn. And I mean, this is 1981. You didn't even have computers working at it yet. And so the backgrounds, it's just, you had a sequence, the Harry Canyon sequence. I don't want to belabor Heavy Metal, but New York City was done in watercolor washouts. And I'm kind of thinking the opening sequence of Disney's Oliver and Company also used that watercolor technique to render New York City. I just have to wonder if the animators hadn't taken a quick look at Heavy Metal to draw some of that inspiration for Oliver and Company.
Interesting, interesting.
There we go.
Okay, Aaron. Next major topic for us is the
You
whole world
bet.
of mindfulness. Talk about mindfulness and mandalas, how they heal because you do healing, how they help you work. This is the Celtic Mandalith Workbook, which you
Yes.
by the way, I went to your website. Obviously, I try to be a good journalist and spend a lot of time there roaming around. I mean, you have got a radio show and you've got a bunch of bands that you feature on your radio show. I did watch, I did watch three women bagpipers, which was wonderful.
That, sir, is Celtic rock radio.
It
I
was
am a
wonderful.
I'm a Celt. I will say Celt instead of Celt. I'm Irish and Welsh, and I'm sorry, 80s rock baby. It's just my thing. So allow me to, I have three different websites. I have Celtic Art Store, because where else do you buy Celtic art? You buy it at a Celtic Art Store, which is .net. During COVID, I had nothing decent to listen to. and I love rock and roll. And there are so many awesome Celtic rock bands that will do everything from write their own songs to cover Journey, or they'll cover the Final Countdown by Europe on the bagpipes, which is just great. And so I reached out to all these bands, and I put together a radio station that's an online app. It's free. I don't charge bands for airplay. I pick up all the costs. One of these days I'll start a Patreon so people can help out. But that's Celtic Rock Radio. Go to the App Store or go to Google Play, and hang on a minute, and let me pop it up here. Celtic Rock Radio. Oops, sorry. It's telling me I don't have an internet. Celtic Rock Radio. Download, push play, rock out, sync it to your Bluetooth for an awesome ride. So then my author website is erinradoauthor.com. My mindfulness art happened completely by accident. I wanted to start drawing Celtic art, which I did. And I started creating these pathways where the knot just kept on going. Most people think that's one of my designs. Yes, on the cover of the Celtic Mandolinth workbook. Most people think all Celtic knots are single lines. That's not actually true. Sometimes you have lines that feed in and then terminate, and they create a wonderful complex pattern. So what I decided to do for a little bit of a modern twist was create a design. See if I can get it in the light here.
I see it.
There we go. When you trace and you just follow along, it has a way of helping the mind to settle down. When you trace a line that's already scribed out for you, you're not thinking about solving a puzzle. You're simply following where the line goes. It's a lot like walking a labyrinth. If you've ever seen a labyrinth in a church or a cathedral, hospitals, college campuses will have labyrinths. You're walking along the path and you're following to the center, and you take a little breath and then you walk back out. So what I did with a Celtic is I just created these woven ribbons, and you cross under and over and under and over. And some people say, wait a minute, I can't cross the line, which is honestly that's a control issue. They can't quite give up on how tight that they can be with their control issues. So I give them a nice little visual. Well, when you drive on the highway, you go over a bridge or under a bridge, you still stay on the highway. For some reason that clicks. When I get them tracing, the mind shifts. There's a physiological change, and you feel it. It's palpable. I like to say, and this is based on, I've done a lot of professional conferences. At one point, I think I did 16 conferences for therapy, psychotherapy, marriage and family therapy, counseling, school counseling. I even got into the American Psychological Association one year. So I've gotten a lot of professional input. When you trace, you come out of this part of the brain, which is all quick decision in the prefrontal cortex, and you begin to center into the medial prefrontal cortex, where things slow down a little bit. Then I have people trace with the other hand. Everyone thinks they can't do it, but they can. And I will show you. I am, whoop, stylus right into my hand there. Okay. I'm gonna turn this down a little bit because it comes with some nice music. Okay, this is my right hand, and it's very easy to trace. Mind you, I'm doing this backwards in the camera, so I can't quite see what I'm doing. But guess what? It's just as easy to trace. Sorry about that. Hitting buttons on my phone here. It's just as easy to trace with the non-dominant, because if you'll notice, it's not my hand that's moving. It's my entire arm that's moving. It's really quite simple to do. But when I have people do that, it crosses the midline on the brain, and then they have to focus more. And when I help people drop into that slow, easy, gentle focus, all that busy brain stops. I equate it to cursive writing. If you remember the nice ways you form your C and then an A and then a P and a T and an H, it's that slow way of thinking things through methodically and gently. But in our quick, impulse-driven world, it's very difficult to slow down. And most people are convinced they can't. And people will say, learn to meditate. And you're like, yeah, right. Like I've got time for that. I create images that slow the mind down. It's the mind that changes. I just provide the tool that helps the mind to focus. Some of my designs are incredibly simple. Some of my designs are a little bit more complex. For example, I have a really cool wolf design. It's one of my best ones when working with little boys because
Wow.
it's a wolf. Can you see it?
Yeah, sure.
It's
Wow.
a wolf. Wolves are cool. A 7-year-old boy will trace a wolf. Wolves are cool. And then I have some designs that are deliberately very, very complex. They're very, very detailed and very difficult to trace.
Hmm.
Some people like intensity. Some people need simplicity. And I'll let my camera readjust because we were just throwing the light from
Right.
the app into the camera. So it'll get me back. I'll come out of the shadows here in just a moment or two. And then some people like a medium level of intensity. It's not about working progressively, start with simple, work to hard. It's about finding a place where your brain hits equilibrium. I've worked with highly intelligent people who were just in a car crash. They do not need an intense design, regardless of their intelligence. They need to process through trauma. I have worked with 5-year-olds who are so precocious that they worked on those highly difficult designs like it's nothing for them. And my thought is, okay, parents, good luck when that kid becomes a teenager. But that's how smart that child is. Find the level of challenge that's just right. I like to say, in my collection of, I think I have about 28 designs, there's a design in there for every brain. It's just a matter of finding the one that makes you forget what you were thinking about for lunch
Wow.
or forget what you were thinking about.
Wow.
Right. And focus. And when I have people who will not surrender into the relaxation of mindfulness, either they're holding on to their problems or they're convinced that they can't, or they're just running their brains crazy, that's when I have them switch hands. It disarms the brain in a kind of a fun way. Again, they're like, what do you mean? I can't do anything with this hand. And they trust me. I say, try it, just give it a try. Very gently. And of course, then then they're confused, they're befuddled. Wait a minute, why is this working? That's when their brain has started to relax. That's a technique I actually share with trauma therapists. Some people hold on to their trauma because it's become so much of a part of their identity that they can't let go of it. That is not healthy, but it happens. And rather than surrendering the trauma and getting to the root cause of the trauma, they hold on to the trauma. When you can trick the brain into releasing, the brain will release. I simply provide the art tools that do that. So
Wow.
that's, and believe you me, I've got 15 years of anecdotes, but I've worked with vets in full fight or flight trigger. I sell at Renaissance festivals. Someone's going to touch off a cannon. You got pirates over there, right? Many festivals begin and end their day with a cannon blast. Standing too close to that and you've just been overseas, a loud bang right at your six is not a good sound.
No.
We have a performer who does a whip act. So he's got 2 whips. Pop, 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 pop. Well, that sounds like rapid fire. There's another trigger. I worked with this one young woman. She was so cute. She started hiccuping and then she couldn't stop hiccuping. And then she was working herself into a panic attack because hiccup, panic, hiccup, panic. It got into that vicious cycle.
Yeah.
So I immediately brought her over. I got her tracing. I just helped her relax with breathing. And sure enough, we got the hiccups to stop. And it's just a matter of learning how to calm the mind. It's a really simple concept.
Interesting.
I like to say I make neurology look good.
Fascinating, fascinating. I mentioned that I did download the app on my regular iPhone. It's on Android now. It's coming soon to this.
Yeah, we're just in review with, by the time everybody sees this interview, we should be through the review process for iTunes. But we're just still in review for iTunes, but
Okay.
it is live on the Play Store right now.
Okay, okay.
You get a fully functioning app for free. You get one design from each of my categories, a soft piece of music, and a soft sound of ocean waves. The full app is $19.95 to unlock. You get all of my designs, 12 pieces of music, 12 soft sounds, and you get me doing 2 guided visualizations. Now, I shared that voice with you. May I try and share it again? The
Sure,
meditative voice?
sure.
Greetings, good listener. This is Ravensdaughter. We are going to experience a ball of light. Come with me on this journey. Thank you very much. And it's an 11-minute.
What a nice voice.
Thank you.
Very melodious, very soothing.
Mhm.
Wow.
It
Wow.
it's kind of tricky to get into that register when I'm all
Wow.
up and enjoying, but
Really?
yes,
Wow.
for example, the ball of light meditation is about taking your own power back. This is an exercise I've done with people. I'll just share this here in the interview because I never share this story very much. I will have people imagine that they're holding a ball of light in their hands. And then I'll say, okay, I'm going to trigger you. I am going to take your ball. Now it's my ball. I have your power. What are you going to do? And most people will say, well, I want my ball back. And I'll say, but I'm not going to give you your ball back. Translate that to almost anything you've ever stressed out about. But I'll tell you what, though, you can always make another ball. And I will take that ball. And you say, fine, I've got another one, and another one, and another one. And I can do this all day. And at one point, the person who keeps taking your ball realizes they can't really take your ball. It'll always be yours. Your strength, your inner worth is yours. No one can take it. No thing, no instance, no terrible moment in your life can take that ball. You can give it away. And it's going to be difficult to take it back. So don't. Make another ball. And it is as beautiful and bright and lovely as your first one, and your second one, and your third one, and your fourth one. And the people who are nitpicking you to take your power and make you feel less will eventually give up because they know they can't win. You will always have your ball of light. And that's the one visualization for the app. That's actually free with the app, a ball of light.
Love that. I love that.
Thank
So
you.
needed, so needed.
So needed.
Yeah, well, it's so needed. That's one of my little pet things. I had an epiphany a while ago, with the news and the murders in New York and the threats of nuclear war, and climate change, which I was going to ask you about. I mean, all of these things, just everything going on. Even we're running out of chocolate. I mean, I love chocolate. And even the subtlety of running out of chocolate because there's a drought in West Africa, and that's where our chocolate comes from. So it's going through the roof. I mean, all of these things hitting on me, and it was overwhelming for me. And I've never quote sought help and therapy and something to soothe this. And you're providing those kind of things, which is really important. It was
May I make
my,
a comment?
excuse me,
May I make a comment?
please.
Your anxiety over all of that and watching your body language and this and that and this and that, let it go. If you run out of chocolate, we run out of chocolate. Switch to honey, switch to carob, switch to strawberries, and acquire a different taste. The only thing constant is change. You must adapt or you can't move on. If we lose something, and I lost my husband, so believe you me, I understand loss. And in the early stages there, boy, I sure didn't want to make it. Whew. Once you can accept that loss has happened, or that trauma has happened, or that stressors will always happen, and you learn to adapt yourself, it's kind of like the Matrix, from the Matrix. It's not the spoon that bends, it's your mind.
Yeah.
It's just a different way
That's
of
a great
looking.
piece of advice. And you know, I also accept, you know, if there's no more chocolate, there's no more chocolate. You know, if there's no more
It
going to the
sucks. I love chocolate too, but
yeah, I mean, it all, listen, but it's part of the bigger picture of listen, as I study climate change and I write about it and it's part of who and what I am. I've noticed there's a subtlety in the way mankind is approaching climate change now. I think we've given up and we're accepting that climate change ain't going away and we're not going to be able to fix it. So how are we going to live with it? Sustainability.
Mhm.
And you know, so 400 million people are going to have to move away from the coast because it's going to be underwater. It's change.
There
Whatever.
are definite changes. I think some of them have gone a little too far to correct, especially with the salinization level of the oceans
Yeah.
and the current that drives our weather globally.
That's changing and climate patterns are changing and
Yes.
there's parts of Europe now that's going to get clobbered in the future with massive amounts of snow. It's whatever. I was going to ask you to we're talking about it now, the whole thing about climate change. It and I joke about it because I live 22 miles from the Atlantic.
You do. New
Yeah,
Jersey.
yep, 22 miles due west of the Atlantic Ocean. And based on everything I've read and I see that eventually in you know 20-25 years I'll have beachfront property. Uh and my house will be
I don't think it'll happen in 25 years, but maybe 100.
in
I believe in all of the wonderful technology, things like there's that coating for the top of roofs that's white, and it reflects infrared straight back out into space.
oh
We should be painting every single roof like
wow
that,
wow
or
interesting
certainly all of the big buildings. We should be if we're going to
interesting
be if we're going to be devoting tax dollars into something like that, let's I don't know if electric vehicles are going to do it for us, but biodegradable plastics. There's so much in the way of green tech that is just so vastly underfunded. That's where I'd like to see some really good scientific breakthroughs, which are happening already, and I'd like to see them get funded. Me, just for my own personal, when I invest what little money I do have, I have one mutual fund that's geared on green tech, because I just think that's where we're going to need to go. Every time I'm flying inbound to LAX, we're usually coming over the Mojave Desert, and there are a couple really good solar farms there. And if you've driven into Las Vegas, coming in from the California border, there's that massive solar farm that's right there. And when I'm driving across the country, I've driven across the country 5 times. In Iowa is just windmills are everywhere. And we certainly need lots and lots and lots more of
yeah we
that.
do
There is no one single thing that will solve any complex problem. That's what bothers me about some of our current thinking and even some of our current political thinking. One single thing will fix it. No. Complex problems require complex solutions. I'm a very holistic thinker. My mother was in public health her entire career, and you need to be treating some of these issues with a holistic conceptual thinking. It's a community that will solve this problem, not one person here or one person there. It's all of us working together that will solve this problem, or at least manage it in a way that we can see the earth will be fine without us.
Oh, sure.
We may not be okay.
Yeah.
The earth will go
Earth will
on.
be here. It sure will be here.
It was here before us, it'll be here after us.
Correct.
We're saving ourselves is what we're doing, and we're saving the life we know or trying to preserve it. That requires a community of thinking. And that's why it's always good to read and educate yourself and support what causes you possibly can that will work toward an overall goal. That's how I see it.
Yep. And that's a great way to end our little chat.
May I mention one more thing?
Please do. This is
I
your,
have a Labyrinth app coming online
okay.
called the Labyrinth Connection. And these are more finger labyrinths
Mhm.
than more traditional ones. And my Kickstarter will launch in mid-May for the
Okay.
Labyrinth Connection, and you will be able to find it on. I didn't send you the link yet because I was just building the Kickstarter right now, but it'll be on all of my websites.
Website, okay.
For the Celtic Art Store for Erin Rado author, and on my Substack for the Labyrinth mobile app, the Labyrinth Connection mobile app. So you can get the Celtic Mandolin app now. You can get the Labyrinth Connection app as soon as it's available. This is my workbook. If you want a physical workbook, I do those too. I even do these little travel cards that are about yay big. When you want a little mindfulness on the go. I've sat next to several stressed out flyers when, you know, we're taxiing to the runway and you see them white knuckling. Anxiety like that is always a control issue. The person is not in control of the plane, ergo, how can the plane ever possibly land correctly if they're not the ones doing it? When I can help a person restore their sense of control, it restores their sense of well-being. So I'll get them tracing on my designs and say, okay, you control this. Pilot's got the plane. He's done it at least once. I'm sure he's very good. Don't worry. You have control over this. And then I'll have them switch hands. I'll have them run through the routine. When they take that breath and they start to come and their shoulders drop a little bit, which usually happens in about 3 or 4 minutes when they trust me, that's when I know that they're on the path to wellness. And then we have a good flight and we get off the plane and they go their way and I go mine.
Cool.
Yeah. So mindfulness is the profundity I like to bring to the world, and I love to entertain with my stories. So if you
Great
want some
stories.
good kick butt fantasy action, please look up Erin Rado author, and there's links to my Amazon store. You can get my work at any independent bookstore because I sell through Ingram and any indie store. Shout out to indie stores. We need our
Yes.
independent bookstores.
Correct.
But of course, you can get
Correct.
it on Amazon and you can get it on Barnes and Noble as well. And then if you like a good story, I will tell you one. If you need a moment before you release the flying monkeys and murder the office, I can help with that too. You just trace.
Uh,
Men release killer robots, women release flying monkeys in general. But before you get to that point where your stressors are just so bad, just take a moment to learn to be mindful. And it doesn't even have to be with my work. It can be with any mindfulness exercise. There are lots of them out there. But we don't teach ourselves how to meditate in Western culture. We just go and go and go and go until, you know, our poor little brains explode. And it's amazing what happens when you can pull back and just reset. And my art provides a way to do that in a very easy way. And by the way, I work with kiddos. I've worked with many children, teaching them to be mindful. I've had many educators use my work in their classrooms. In the United Kingdom, mindfulness is part of daily curriculum. I would like to see that here in the United States. A lot of educators are using mindfulness in classrooms. I'd love to see that more and more. So we can take a child and teach them mindfulness at age 4 or age 5. 4-year-olds have no problem tracing a simple design or even complex designs. When you teach them to be mindful, you are teaching them a lifelong management skill. When I have them switch between one hand and the other hand, it's exercising more synapse connectivity across the brain. Ask anyone who's ever broken their arm and had to learn to write with the other hand. it makes your brain bigger when you have to switch hands.
You know, what
So
you just said is so, is so, resonant with me. And it's like I want to write something to express it. I have two grandchildren. Um, I have two grandchildren, uh,
you're
2.5 and 1.5, my granddaughter. The point being, the input that we give to them, they're a mile away, so I see them all the time. They live with us
Mhm.
for a bunch of months, and but the input you put into a child, a baby, an infant, that input, you start seeing that input, whether it's love and
Mhm.
learning and words. I mean, you start seeing that, at 1.5, 2 years old, and you start getting it all back
Yep.
at 2.5. And I was just thinking about this early this afternoon, marveling, at the miracle of a child.
The
Period.
first,
Children,
the first 5 years are absolutely critical in
unbelievable, critical,
in
critical,
human critical in human
critical.
development. The more input they can get, anything that smells sweet, anything that smells terrible, all of that excites the brain.
Yeah,
And the more touchies, the more feelies. And so I've seen when I travel, I see 2-year-olds on their game tablets. Well, why can't they also use my app to do a tracing exercise, which teaches them the slow wave thought process as well as having fun with their little games? They can do both.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
uh,
And all
uh,
of that is going to
you,
come out.
you
Every
got to
little
get
thing you
that brain
do
act.
is
Yeah.
going to come out when they're 5 and 10 and 15 and 20.
Hmm.
Their whole
Hmm.
lives, their whole journey, their whole course is set. And I can go off on so many different tangents, but
Is it okay if may I share one more story?
yes, please.
I had a girlfriend who was helping me with my business, and I gave her one of my workbooks. Her 4-year-old, who was speech delayed at the time, kind of snuck into her room and took the book. And she found the child tracing on his own.
Wow.
And he had one of my wolf design, mommy blue, mommy dog. And sure enough, that child tested on the autism spectrum later on. So now the child is 9, and whenever she would go to get the child's haircut, she's gonna kill me with the scissors. Mommy, don't let her get me with the scissors. She dials up my mobile app, hands it to her son. The kid is tracing while the stylist is going snip, 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 snip. Because she had started that mindfulness with him at age 4 when he snuck the book out and just did it on his own, his mind was prepared to calm down in moments of stress triggers. And wouldn't it just be great if we can get every child on the face of the planet? That's the beautiful thing about art. Art has no language barrier. I'll try and wrap it up with this. But I'm just dialing up my mobile app one more time here. Um, it does not matter what you call this wolf shape. Sorry, my phone. It can be a wolf. It can be El Lobo. It can be what in French, loup. It doesn't matter what you call it. It only matters that you see it and trace it. That's the beauty of symbolic language. And that's the beauty of art. Art is universal. You can call it one thing in Asia, you can call it another thing in Africa, but the symbol still resonates. And that's what I just love about the global concept of art therapy in general. And it's just neat to be a part of that.
Yeah, and you are neat, and you are delightful,
Thank
and,
you.
and you
I
are
try.
introspective, and you are imaginative, and you are energetic, and you are so many different things, and I'm so glad.
The passion comes out. It's what I do.
Yeah, I'm so glad we got put together because I've enjoyed every moment of this. To be continued. And
Absolutely.
absolutely to be continued. We're indie authors, and that's a critical, huge, wonderful thing. We're in a special club. A
Well, I
special club.
said my novel, Tales of the Ravensdaughter, was 6 stories like season 1. I'm already noodling on season 2. And I've got a lot more stories to tell, and I've got more mindfulness to create and more art to bring forth. So you better bet I'll have something soon.
Good, good.
Absolutely.
So I'm officially welcoming
Thank you so much
back.
for having me,
Yeah,
Kelvin.
oh
Thank you
no,
very, very
and
much.
thank Mark for getting us together.
Thank you,
And
Mark. You're
yeah,
out there.
this was great. Again, to be continued. I'm going to stop recording now. Don't leave. We're going to do a quick 2-minute wrap. I love that 2-minute wrap thing. But thank you so much, Erin.
Thank
This was
you.
great. Truly, you're great. Thank you.